Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and I hope all of you are having a great day. Hey, just your ordinary Tuesday. I'm sure a lot of people around the country have been experiencing this awesome snow in spring. And then, hey, at least here in the next day or two, we should be warming up to almost summertime temperatures. So crazy weather aside, I hope all of you are doing well and you actually left your homes wearing the appropriate clothing. So so today on the show, great show planned for you, where we have a company called QuirkLogic joining us, and we're going to find out what they do, how they do it, and it's something, pretty unique, and, really looking forward to it. But a couple of things to mention, including computeramerica.com. That is our website. That is where you'll find everything and anything having to do with today's show. So if you want to find a link to our guest website, if you want to find any articles that we do when we do computer and technology news, if you want to see any videos or interviews or things like that, hey, Computer America, one thing to remember, we got you covered. Also, while you're there, be sure to check out the social media contest brought to you by Logitech, and be sure to check out the live video feed brought to you by OWC. So, with all that being said, we are just going to go ahead and jump right into this. So, joining us is the founder and CEO of QuirkLogic, and if you want to find out about them, QuirkLogic.com. But here to explain what they do and how they do it is the one, the only, Mr. Nashir Samanani. And Nashir, thank you for coming on to Computer America.
Hi, Ben. Hello, and thanks for talking to me today. And by the way, Ben, I've got 5 centimeters of snow still in my backyard, so still recovering from that.
I know it's pretty good weather outside, but then there's snow falling off the roof. It is just the weirdest thing, but hey, luckily I think a lot of us are, computer people, so we're inside anyways, so hey, it's okay. So with that being said, Nashir, why don't we go ahead and get a quick background of yourself? What field do you come from, and what led you to start QuirkLogic?
Sure. So my co-founder, Mike Maybe, and myself have been doing technology startups now for many years. This is actually our 5th company together. We came out of the University of Calgary many years back from a spin-off called ACTC Technologies, and Mike and I had the good fortune of running some of their large projects for them. The relevancy from that backstory is that because of the close connection between ACTC Technologies and the University of Calgary, we kept going back to the graduating class and literally hired the cream of the crop. And so Mike and I ended up with an incredible team that we were managing. So around 1995, we decided that we had done enough of this for somebody else, and we wanted to try and see if we could actually venture out on our own. So we founded our first company called EraSoft Technologies, and it just so happened that at the same time, ACTC was getting disbanded by the university. And so we went and picked up the same team that was actually working with us. And so the core team actually ended up joining us in EraSoft. So EraSoft, if you're familiar with a Symantec's product called Norton 2000, that was our product, rebranded by Symantec. That startup actually went from startup to capturing over 70% of the global market share in its space in the span of about 2 years. And a U.S. publicly traded company called EraSoft came knocking on our door. We sold the company to them, made a commitment to stay around for a few years, help them take the products to market. And then at the end of that commitment, Mike and I came back, picked up the same team, and we founded our next company called HotStart Technologies, which was, think of it, HotStart as a technology accelerator. Its mandate was go find the next big thing. And HotStart actually, with the same team, ended up launching a company called Elluminate. You might be familiar with Elluminate's technology. Think of Illuminate's technology as a virtual classroom technology that captures the essence of face-to-face teaching in an online environment. That ended up capturing over 80% of the global market share. We had over 4,000 clients. And a company called Blackboard, you might have heard of them as well, came knocking on our doors. And so we sold that company to Blackboard, again made a commitment to stay around for a few years. That commitment came to an end a few years back, and Mike and I came back with the same team and started our next accelerator called I2X Technologies. And the mandate for I2X was go find the next big thing, and it did. And in fact, actually, it started QuirkLogic, but the QuirkLogic technology actually comes from our experience from Elluminate. 30% of our clients in Elluminate were corporate clients. And what we had realized was that every time we walked into a corporate boardroom, we saw a bit of a gap. Even in spaces where corporations had spent $150,000 plus equipping their boardrooms and meeting spaces with the latest technology, we realized that people were continuing to use analog writing surfaces like flip charts and whiteboards, despite all of these LCD-based technologies and projector-based technologies that have been around for 10 to 15 years. And so that was quite intriguing for us. And so that kind of led to the innovations that we're now doing in QuirkLogic.
Right, yeah, and we're going to get into just, kind of what you have to offer at QuirkLogic, but I do find it kind of interesting that you come from, kind of that education background, because I know that for the longest time, technology in schools has, really kind of hit a good stride where, when I was just, kind of getting into school, and then over the course of just getting out of school, we went from overhead projectors with the markers and the clear sheets. And by the end, some teachers were able to use the overhead projectors and were able to use their computers. I'm sure that at this point, some classes in college, we use, kind of Blackboard, and we were able to communicate, kind of over the internet in real time. But that's all, of course, kind of great for education. But I think adoption and the usability were a big part of it. That again is just kind of my experience with the education field. Talking about the business field, why do you think that flip charts, whiteboards, maybe even PowerPoint 2000, why do you think those were kind of are the standards as opposed to something a little bit more high tech, convenient, or usable, such as a product like QuirkLogic? Because they've been around for a while, and
they have, yeah.
So why do you think that is?
And in fact, to your point, some of these technologies have been around for 10 to 15 years. They tend to actually do really well in education. And I'll tell you that the difference between education and corporations is that in education, say a device that is a digital device, LCD-based digital device, like electronic whiteboard, actually has a one-to-one relationship between the teacher and the device. It actually becomes a personal device, and it almost is a case where the teacher actually gets trained, and so day in, day out, it's the same person actually using the technology. In a corporate environment, when you walk into a boardroom today, the development team might be using the technology. Tomorrow, the CEO will walk in there and want to use the technology. The next day, it might be the accounting team that wants to use it. And so the challenge becomes with this kinds of technologies, the more complex these technologies are, the less and less they actually get used. And in fact, this kind of speaks to what we've done with Quilla. Quilla is a digital writing device. It is specifically designed for real-time ideation. And Quilla uses some breakthrough technology. It actually has the world's largest e-paper screen, which was jointly developed as a result of a 3-year development partnership between QuirkLogic and E Ink. If you recall, E-Ink is the maker of e-paper displays used in Kindles and Kobos. So 3 years ago, we approached them, and we've jointly created the world's first 42-inch e-paper screens. And then what QuirkLogic has done is we've built a custom device based on those screens. And the Quillas are designed to actually look and feel like writing and reading on paper. And it's specifically designed to actually give users that sort of an experience. They're simple, and the device comes alive in a manner that has some software that's also specifically designed for real-time ideation. It's got a real-time ideation ecosystem that takes the complexity of collaboration and pushes it into the background so that teams can actually focus on the creativity and not just the technology. It just fades into the background.
Yeah, and for anyone out there watching the video portion, we are showing the video that you have up here, 42 inches. Of course, kind of what you have set up here isn't so much, just one 42-inch that, people can use, but rather it looks like you've kind of mounted these onto, I don't know, let's say a conference room wall, and you have multiple displays. Talk about, kind of how you ideally see these set up. Are these portable? Are these mounted onto the wall? Are these, kind of multi-display setup? Because, all these things, I guess when it comes to corporate, one solution isn't going to be the best solution for everyone.
That's very true. In fact, what we've experienced from our engagement with corporate clients is that innovation in corporations, the creative process in corporations, is actually not nailed to a wall or chained to a wire. It actually happens everywhere. It could happen next to the water cooler. It could happen in the cubicles. It could actually happen in huddle spaces. So what we've done with Quilla is we've actually designed a product that is, actually think of it as the world's largest screen that's battery operated. So you can actually take it off its mounts. It's got easy mount features where you can clamp it on and you can take it off and put it on a portable stand and move it around anywhere in the office complex. And it's got a battery that lasts up to 18 hours. So it's fully portable, and you can use it in a single standalone mode with a single Quilla. But what we've done is we've taken our experience with collaboration from Elluminate, and we've actually built a back-end ecosystem, real-time ideation ecosystem that allows us to actually let the users work in single device mode or connect up multiple devices in a very easy fashion, and use those either in a mode that allows you to, for example, have a book mode where you're looking at page 1 on the first Quilla and page 2 on the second Quilla and page 3 on the third Quilla, and as you flip the first page, all of them flip in sync, just like you're reading a book. Or you could use it as one large surface so that the entire surface becomes one surface. You can have larger sessions on the entire surface. It's also got a very high resolution. Normal LCDs have about 2 million pixels. This one each screen has 6 million pixels. So imagine if you've got 3 of them side by side, it's 6 million times 3. So you've got a lot of resolution there.
Right. Yeah. My math is a bit rusty, but that's about 18 million. So, good luck with that. But with that being said, you've thrown out the word a couple times. I'm not exactly familiar with, I don't know if this is a typical corporate term, but ideation. Explain that term to us and why it's so important to kind of foster ideation in these settings, because just breaking down to the root word idea, maybe idea creation, and I thought that kind of happened in someone's head. Why is it so important to have something like Quilla to I guess kind of do it in sort of in public?
Yeah. Well, the old saying that says that the idea was written up on the back of a napkin. Well, it turns out that ideation and innovation are kind of tied together, and ideation is the first step to innovation. Every organization today is trying to innovate. We know that. Innovation usually is done by teams, and teams tend to engage in this creative process by sharing their ideas and building on those emerging thoughts by writing them out and brainstorming on some kind of a writing surface. Many of these writing surfaces are larger, like flip charts and whiteboards, but sometimes it's in their notebooks or on paper. But when it comes to team engagement, usually it requires some of those larger surfaces. So what emerges usually is the beginning of almost every long-term corporate plan, almost every long-term corporate strategy, corporate intellectual property kind of emerges on these writing surfaces. Quilla is specifically designed to foster this brainstorming and collaboration through a real-time ideation ecosystem. And what it does is it allows teams to easily capture, store, recall, build on, and share their collective ideas. And so this is, for the first time, I think the ecosystem now actually provides corporations an ability to be able to capture, store, and manage their intellectual assets as they emerge in real time from their teams.
No, and so just looking at this, you have some examples here on your website. Looks like when you're designing, fashion and being able to put something down, do some sketches, make comments, things like that. I assume that you could even, kind of save what you have put on the board and then email those or save those for later in some form. What are some of the best industries where you think this would be helpful for? Is this for, editing documents? Is this for fashion, like I said? Who is really gravitating towards Quilla?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Quilla is actually designed to provide a value for teams in a creative engagement process. And it's designed to fade into the background, as I mentioned. It's simple to use, and it actually mimics writing on paper, and it's designed to foster that creativity. In fact, I'd just take that one step further and say that there's enough research that now shows that when you're actually writing on paper, it kind of triggers your reticular activating system in a way which signals your brain to focus. Well, Quilla is specifically designed to help and engage your brain in that sort of a way. It's designed for real-time ideation for that creative process. And so when you take a look at its usage, you can start to imagine any places where teams tend to come together, whether they are meeting rooms or huddle spaces or next to the water cooler, and wherever good ideas emerge, that's where the Quillas actually have a space. So corporate spaces certainly, but like you mentioned, design and creative spaces like architecture, designers of all kinds, technology teams in the labs, artists. These are all spaces where Quilla actually plays quite a key role. But there's some interesting spaces that we're starting to learn about as well as we're starting to engage with potential customers. Now, I'll give you some examples of this. Mm-hmm. Healthcare is speaking to us. For example, when you walk into a hospital, they've got whiteboards all over the place. And because Quilla actually is like paper, it's something that they find quite attractive. It's not shining in the patient's eyes in their rooms at night. So there's some healthcare usage that we're exploring with some clients there. Construction industries have actually come to us. They use blueprints all the time. They're talking to us about using our Quillas at the construction sites and back in the head office so that they can actually share blueprints and mark them up in real time so that the architect can see what the site's actually doing in terms of changes. That's another example. Another interesting one is sports teams have come to us and say that they want to run their coaching sessions in the locker rooms using the Quilla. But because it doesn't have a glass surface, you can actually take it out into the bright sunlight on a battery, right? And be able to actually do the coaching sessions, even play-by-plays on the field as well. So that's another usage that's being explored by potential clients. Another interesting one that a potential client actually came up to us and said they were from the U.S. court systems, and they said, we want to put this into jury rooms. And, the question we asked was, why into jury rooms? Well, it turns out that juries deliberate on flip chart paper, and these need to be archived. They need to be captured and archived later on for, I guess it's materials that need to be recorded.
Right.
And so what they want to do is they want to use the QuirkLogic in real time. So as the juries are deliberating, they're captured and saved in real time. They don't have to come back and look at it later on.
No,
That's just some examples of usage.
Yeah, no, and I really do like that last one, because they have to be saved just to see how they kind of reach their conclusion. And I guess instead of saving the pieces of paper or taking pictures, this is speaking to some of the functionality of these boards. I'm guessing that you can kind of record sessions as they kind of go, so you can play back if you want. Talk about what systems that you kind of made it a priority to integrate with, because you mentioned blueprints, so I'm guessing PDFs and the like. Obviously, you can write on these things. I see some kind of marker or stylus kind of deal. How do you interact with it, and what else can you kind of throw onto the Quilla from other sources?
That's again a good question. So the Quilla is actually designed to mimic your writing experiences on writing surfaces. So out of the box, you can certainly start to. It's easy to use, ready to go out of the box, and you can start to actually do that kind of function with it. And then you can engage teams either in the room or from a distance. But if you've got materials, you can actually bring in images as well. And so you could have, we talked about the blueprints as one example, but imagine any image that you can actually bring in there and you can mark them up. And being a high resolution screen, you can actually also put in beautiful artwork on there as well. So when you're not using it, you've got it as artwork. But imagine you can actually bring in those kinds of images and then use those as templates, or use those as some background on which you can actually continue to ideate. And then it's as simple as storing it and then sharing it with others. And you can do that in a variety of different ways. You can save it into a PDF and email it out, or you can continue to share it with others that have access to the Quilla accounts as well. And the beauty of this is you no longer actually have to pull out your phones and take a picture of it to store it. You can actually continue working from where you left off.
Right.
So that's sort of the kind of typical usage that actually takes place in some of the customer environments.
Yeah, and so I'm seeing you have a button here on the website, see what's new in version 1.1. I guess this is some kind of iterative improvement on the product. You obviously are continuing to develop this. Just from watching the video, I noticed that there was only a fraction of a second of lag time between using the stylus and having something appear. It looked like less than maybe 100 milliseconds, but still somewhat noticeable. Maybe besides response times, maybe besides increased screen resolution. I mean, what is QuirkLogic really looking to improve on not just the traditional way of doing things, but even your own product? Give me a little bit of a wish list that you could, kind of hope to see in Quilla 2.0 or something.
Sure. Yeah. And I think some of the videos out there are showing the first prototypes that we had actually put out there. The latest version of the product, the pen speeds and everything else is much more improved, and they'll continue to improve. As it does with almost every new product that's introduced out there. It gets better and better out with every release that you do. Certainly, I think that the advantage that we have is that most of that is software-driven, and we can do over-the-air updates. And so we're continuing to make those kinds of enhancements. But I think the beauty of Quilla is that the ecosystem in the background is actually designed. The best way to probably provide you with an understanding of this is that let me use an analogy or an example. When Nest first came out with their product, everybody looked at the thermostats and they said, "Oh, what beautiful thermostats!" But it turns out that Nest's strategy was not just the thermostats. it was the smart home ecosystem. And today we're starting to actually understand how they're pulling together a whole bunch of applications that are based on a smart home ecosystem. Well, think of the Quilla as an ecosystem that's actually designed with our Elluminate experience to actually be ready for vertical applications. So think of the first application that you're seeing on there as being a flip chart application, but imagine now going deeper into construction applications or hospital applications, or some third parties might actually decide that they want to go deeper into sports applications. The ecosystem is actually designed to allow for all of that. And not just that, this year you will also see the ability for mobile devices to interact with Quilla content as well. So imagine you're on the road and you've got your Android phone or your iOS device, and you are participating in a brainstorming session, fully participating in a brainstorming session. So that's sort of the vision that we have, and that's the design of the product is actually done in such a way that it actually allows us to do those upgrades and enhancements fairly quickly.
Yeah, and well, that's great. So now you can drive and brainstorm at the same time. But no, this is like many different smart products that we see. You continue to add functionality, even if you kind of jump in and maybe install Aquila. The product behind the scenes, the software side, gets continuous updates and will have added functionality. So and that's great, especially because it's. I'm sure that these things are not cheap. The largest e-ink, kind of surface, these things, you want them to be usable for, 5, 10, 15 years, not just, it's old technology, starting next year. So that's great. And, really cool to see what you have kind of playing down the road. And Nashir, I'll be honest with you, we're kind of running out of time here. Why don't we go ahead and wrap this up? Any final comments, any part of the Quilla or QuirkLogic that we really didn't touch on?
No, I think we've covered it. I think we're quite excited to bring the world's first digital writing surface that feels like paper, and it's got the full power of digital to the marketplace. And we're quite excited with the feedback that we're getting, and looking forward to engaging with more and more customers. So I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today.
No, our pleasure. And talk about, if people want to find more information, I assume your website, and what can they find at the website?
QuirkLogic.com, and there's a whole bunch of information on both the product as well as you can request live demos there as well. And in addition to that, we continue to be at our different shows as well. Infocom will be the next one. And so if anybody is at Infocom, come and visit us on the floor, and we'll give you a live demo. You can touch and feel the product as well.
Very, very cool. So with that being said, like I said way at the beginning, computeramerica.com, right there on the homepage, today's show notes, and we have a link to QuirkLogic right there. So if you're driving, if you're busy, or if you're brainstorming, don't worry, we got you covered. All right. So, and Nashir, I think we're going to end it there, but I will say that, QuirkLogic, when I kind of read the company name, I was like, well, this is going to be interesting. And fun fact, I think I was right. It's, you have developed quite the product here, and, also kind of glad to see that you stuck to your roots. And this has applications, not just in corporate, but in education, medicine, and even beyond. So, Nashir, thank you for coming on to Computer America for explaining that. And have a great day.
Thanks so much, Ben. Appreciate your time.
All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. So everyone, there he goes. And again, if you want to find out more about the product, what they do, QuirkLogic.com. And again, kind of focusing on that business, enterprise, corporate education side. Probably not going to get one of these installed on your smart fridge anytime soon, but it's just kind of showing what's possible at the other end of the spectrum. And hey, eventually that technology will come to a more consumer-ready product. And it kind of already has. I mean, e-ink in tablets is nothing new. It's just the form factor, the size, and the ability, to be a smart device. So everyone, stay tuned. More Computer America, and hey, all that. Stay tuned.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Why? Because you can save 45% on packages compared to your high-priced cable bill. Wow. Take those giant scissors out and cut the cable and save with Dish TV. Plus, you get a free DVR upgrade to record your favorite shows and free installation. And with Dish Anywhere, you can watch TV for free on your mobile device. Act fast. You can save hundreds of dollars. Does your cable company do that for you? I don't think so. Get all the best TV programming at your fingertips at a fraction of the price of cable TV. So say adios, arrivederci, goodbye to the high cable bill and save up to 45% on Dish TV packages today. These are limited time offers and can change at any time. Call fast.
800-471-5325. 800-471-5325. 800-471-5325. That's 800-471-5325.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 32 minutes past the hour as we continue on here, and we are about to get into computer and technology news. And if you are new, this is a segment dedicated entirely to the latest news and all that sort of thing. It's a lot of fun, and we try to stay up to date and informed as we kind of move ahead. So with that being said, if you miss any part of today's show, feel free to check us out at our website or wherever podcasts are heard, because the podcast is simply the entirety of the show rebroadcast to wherever you happen to listen to podcasts. So, hey, it's don't worry if you miss us. You can still listen to us, just not, of course, live. And you can't listen to us. And, of course, you can listen to us live on our website. And, of course, we stream online and, of course, on IRN. So, with all that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started with computer and technology news. So, here we go. I found it. All right, so I think for our first story that we're going to do, and we're doing this one simply because it is time sensitive and relevant. For those of you who of course know, April 17th, that is tax day. It is the day when is the deadline for you to file your taxes. And hey, a lot of people do that electronically. It's probably the best way, or typically is the best way to do them. You get that instant feedback, you make sure it's all filed away, and you are good to go. But here's a problem, and this coming to us from Ars Technica, but of course, plenty of stories around the internet. Well, Sean Gallagher, Ars Technica, IRS, the people who handle your taxes, the e-file system crashed today on tax day of all days. So we can, kind of maybe safely assume that it was swarmed with traffic, since it is that final day, a lot of people rushing to get it done. Well, at midday on the busiest day of the year for the Internal Revenue Service's electronic tax filing infrastructure, they said that the modernized e-file system has gone offline. That is not what you want on the last day to file your taxes. So, the acting IRS commissioner, they informed the members of the House Committee for Oversight and Government Reform during a hearing at 10 a.m. that a number of systems associated with the tax filing were down and that the IRS is working to resolve the issue. And as of about 2:15, and I can only assume because there's no update to the story, that is currently still the case. And I don't know if this is some, like, well, if it happened in a lot of other areas or schools or something like that, they take one of two approaches. They take, well, you shouldn't have waited to the last minute. You are late and you will owe taxes and penalties. Or they can go the other route and say, our system is unfortunately down. We understand that, and we are extending the window to file. Let's hope it is the latter and not the former. So they said that the modernized e-file outage won't immediately affect taxpayer submission of returns or result in penalties for late filing. Well, that's good. But it will delay acceptance of the returns and could cause problems for the software providers and other authorized e-file providers. So there's no word as to the underlying cause, as to what the underlying causes happen to be. Let's see. Of course, I think that's as far as we're going to take that article. But again, you can still file, but actually saying that it was accepted and getting processed and getting your return to you or anything of that nature is going to take a bit of time. And again, the article had a pretty good tagline saying you had one job, and yeah, they kind of biffed it. So with that being said, let's see. We have a couple. All right. This one is a vindication. This one is a personal vindication because I felt like a complete moron the other day when I was trying to explain that Facebook, they have a lot of data. That is becoming more and more apparent as we hear more and more about the Cambridge Analytica, whole debacle. And I was trying to explain just how Facebook, even when they're missing data points, even when they're missing people from their network, when they have that much data, they can then infer other things about the people who don't even have a Facebook account. And then that's when they asked Facebook in Congress when he was doing his testimony that yes, they do in fact actually have shadow profiles. That's what they're called. I don't think Facebook actually approved of the term, but that's the one going around. It's the idea that even if you deleted Facebook, even if you never had a Facebook, but you used other services that Facebook pulls information from, or your friends, family, relatives, whatever, actually pulled in or actually used, if all signs lead to something like spent the weekend with Ben, and Ben happened to be a kid, never had a Facebook profile, never would, Ben would be referenced in multiple people's profiles where, spent time with him, bought things for him, went places with him, did things, things like that. Well, eventually, the Facebook algorithm would kind of pinpoint that and say, we're missing a profile. We can't attribute all this data to an existing profile, so we'll create a pseudo profile, a fake profile, and kind of say that this is a placeholder for whoever Ben happens to be. And then whenever they can reasonably assume that a data point goes or can be attributed to that shadow profile, it does, or it is attributed to that shadow profile, at which point they are able to collect data. And, even though there's no profile, so they can't directly advertise to that person, what they can do with it is use it in market research. They can use it in any number of things that, kind of help Facebook do what Facebook does. So this is an article from the Register, and yeah, they said that Facebook admits it does track non-users for their own good. So the company explained that that the post is a partial response to the question that Mark Zuckerberg was unable to answer during his Senate and congressional hearings. And yeah, said that it's no real surprise that someone using their Facebook login to sign into other sites is tracked, but the post by Product Management Director David Baser goes into a little detail on the other tracking activities. And by the way, some of which have been known to the outside world for some time, occasionally denied by Facebook, and apparently mysterious only to Zuckerberg. I will say that about 2 weeks ago, we had a privacy advocate here on the show. And, you know, he was from the UK, but that doesn't matter. Privacy should be kind of universal. But he was the first one that tipped me off to the fact that Facebook doesn't just collect data. Facebook doesn't just, through partnerships, through services that they provide, through their own service, they don't just collect data left and right of everything that they interact with. They also have a bounty program of sorts. Facebook will actually go out and buy large sums of private data and then process it and integrate it with its own, think of it kind of like a hoard of data. And they will actually go out and seek out, that's right, they'll actually go out and seek out all the data that they possibly can. Very important, because it's, you know, it's one of those things that you assume that Facebook has, you know, whatever Facebook collects, but then they're going out and purchasing even more. They don't want just your profile as a Facebook user. They want your profile as an individual, as a person who uses the internet. They want to know every little detail about you. And I think that's the part that we're truly coming to grips with when it comes to Facebook and their role in social media. So let's see. So let's go ahead and continue some of these excerpts from the article. In other words, it's data gathering for advertisers rather than for Facebook. An advertiser who plants the Facebook pixel on their site gets an easy way to identify someone who bought something so they can reach this customer again using custom audience. Right, so the Facebook pixel, if you are not familiar with that, it's like, think of it like an invisible layer between your website and the user, and Facebook is able to associate that random visitor because, hey, you are not Facebook. You do not have access to the data that Facebook does. Facebook Pixel will identify them, tell you everything that you need to know about them, and like they said, help you advertise more directly to audiences such as them. It's a way to use Facebook without being Facebook. And hey, how they make a lot of money. So anyways, saying that if you don't like all this, it's your fault. You didn't use Facebook's preference menus to manage your news and advertising management, which, by the way, personally, I just went in last night and to go check out my Facebook preferences. Yeah, everything was turned on. So advertisers know me pretty darn well, I like to think. So yeah, there's that. Actually, yeah, we have time. So we are going to go ahead and try to get this other story because it's semi-related. It's Cambridge Analytica. Again, the idea that, Cambridge Analytica was using these quizzes to collect data that they should not have had access to. And the initial claim was that 87 million people were compromised. And compromised after only, I think, like tens of thousands. It was either tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people actually took the quiz because they were able to scrape the data from the friends of the quiz takers, not just the quiz takers. It was very rampant, and hey, a lot of data was snatched up where, again, it was legit to do so, but it wasn't legit. They could have done it, but they weren't supposed to do it. And so, hey, that's where we kind of ended up. But we had only heard about, I think it was like a personality quiz. It was, it was what kind of person are you? You take a quiz, you give it permissions, and it spits out some kind of, not too interesting answer. Well, this coming out today, where a former Cambridge Analytica employee, so another whistleblower, said that they have used other quizzes to gather Facebook data. And this by Swapna Krishna, coming from Engadget once again, but the social network reiterates that its investigation is ongoing. Remember that. So, with that being said, the former employee / whistleblower testified today in front of a UK committee that it's investigating the misuse of Facebook users' personal data. Kaiser claimed in her spoken and written testimony that the Cambridge Analytica used other quizzes, such as the cough cough sex compass quiz. So obviously getting a little more personal, but Cambridge Analytica, their point is not to tell you your personality or your attractiveness or things like that. Their purpose is to collect data, and they use low-hanging fruit. They used people's curious nature against them. That's kind of what we're noticing. So Kaiser did not have information on the specific quizzes that Cambridge Analytica used, but her statement makes clear that This Is Your Digital Life was not the only quiz that the company utilized to scrape Facebook data. So, let's see. So saying, and this is a statement from Facebook saying, quote, "We are currently investigating all apps that had access to large amounts of information before we changed our platform to dramatically reduce data access in 2014. Quote, "We will conduct a full audit of any app with suspicious activity, and if we find developers that misuse personal identifiable information, we will ban them and tell everyone affected. Say, hey, we let this happen and you were affected." Facebook is playing a dangerous game of catch-up. But I think that at the same time, Facebook is so big that any consumer backlash is going to be too small. And I don't use the term any lightly, because there have been a lot of reports that consumer backlash is happening. I read somewhere that 1 out of every 10 American Facebook users deleted their Facebook profile after all this news, so only 10%. You think after being warned that you have been lied to, you have been stolen from, you have been compromised through Facebook, the abandonment rate would be a bit higher than 10%, but that's not what we're finding. And even beyond that, that's just in the US. Facebook is not making their great gains. They're 2 billion active monthly users. 30 million in the grand scheme of things really isn't that much. They are trying to get into India, they're trying to get into China, and they're definitely getting into Africa. Emerging markets that are coming online in the billions. And Facebook has positioned itself to really capture a large segment of those populations. So, I mean this, any consumer reaction is not going to be enough. It's going to have to be some kind of legislative response. Again, the UK did this with the right to be, with the digital protections that they put into place. I mean, it's just we're not seeing. These hearings are a pretty cool idea from Congress and the Senate, but unless they lead to some kind of reform or actual legislation put onto Facebook and other social media sites, yeah, you're just airing dirty laundry that's not really going to make much of a difference. So, yep, we are seeing the influence of Facebook. We're seeing the possibilities of data and what Facebook does, but we're not seeing any kind of reaction that is going to meaningfully impact what Facebook does. So, there's that. All right. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to our next story. And speaking of meaningful impact, well, when you have a service, and the internet is luckily pretty decentralized, not completely decentralized, there are still servers, and you have to be routed through each one. Well, here's where you get a situation where you want to shut something down, and in this case, you are Russia, and you want to shut something down, but it's not easy. It's not easy, and it's gonna make you look kind of silly when you take the steps you feel you have to. So this is coming to us from The Verge, Vlad Savov, and Russia's Telegram ban is a big, convoluted mess. So, brute enforcement has taken major banks, online stores, and Viber calls offline. And again, this can really be attributed to the fact that they tried to brute force ban something that, Telegram. Telegram is, well, we're going to get into that, but essentially, let's go ahead and start the article saying that if you want to know the reason the author is not on WhatsApp with its other 1.5 billion users, the answer is Telegram. To people unfamiliar with it, Telegram is simply WhatsApp without any of the icky data sharing with Facebook. Yeah, that's right, because Facebook purchased WhatsApp a little while ago. So even if you feel that you leave Facebook and instead just choose to use WhatsApp, well, hey, Facebook has that too. Oh, and same goes for Instagram. But anyways, they said that it has been my favorite, most reliable messaging client, again, speaking as the author. And its platform-agnostic design means that he can access his messages across iPhones, Androids, and desktop browsers. Of course, he's a big fan of Telegram, which is part of the reason why its present ban in its native Russia troubles him. So they said that it received its initial funding. The idea for Telegram was a messaging tool that was shielded from the inquisitive glare of Russian spy agencies, and that its effectiveness in pursuing that original goal has been demonstrated this month by with the ruling by a Russian court that Telegram should be banned in the country. So obviously the Russian state, they see a popular app that is designed to hide its users from the Russian state. So the Russian state says, that's no good. Get away. Get that out of here. Well, they said that Telegram has earned unwanted notoriety for being a favorite dissemination method for terrorist propaganda. Comes with the territory. It's a tool. It's not, it's not intrinsically evil. It's just how people, intend to use it. But I digress. Saying that while the court ruling was handed down on Friday, implementation of the ban didn't commence until, yesterday. And that's when the various local ISPs started blocking Telegram through clumsy method of, and here's where the clumsy part comes in. Because it's not just, again, the idea is that these things are decentralized. They are hosted on many, many different servers and IPs. It's impossible to just flip a switch and say this service no longer works. That is not really possible. So Russia felt it was prudent to instead block 15,800,000 IPs on Amazon and Google's cloud platforms. So That's a lot of IPs, and that can cause a lot of problems. Telegram routes traffic through those U.S. Cloud services to circumvent Russian state interference, but so do many other Russian businesses. And since the bloc isn't smart enough to isolate Telegram, it's led to a heap of trouble and malfunctions for online banking and retail services across the country. So they said that the large scale of this collateral damage provides an apt illustration for the importance Russia places on pushing Telegram to either comply or perish. Yeah, and I guess the author's right. It's if they knew this was going to happen, and someone in Russia could have easily told them, hey, this is what's going to happen if you ban this entire block of IP addresses, and they still felt it was the best option that they had, really goes to show just how much they don't want Telegram in the country anymore. So let's see. To get a better idea of Telegram's use in Russia, the government motivations in blocking it, and the full effect, of course, the author asked two Russian friends for their thoughts. And, we have a link to this article in the show notes. You can read the kind of interview there with his two Russian friends. But again, the point of this was Telegram started in Russia, used to circumvent Russian supervision. And then now that they don't like that, here's the instance where it's time to really put our foot down. So says Russia. And yeah, it was more than a little heavy-handed, to put it simply. So with that being said, let's see. So might have time for just one more story. Just one more quick story. Let's go ahead and talk about... All right, so for the longest time, fun fact about Ben, I had transition lenses for glasses. When they first came out some time ago, they were all the rage. They helped people, protect their eyes. They were a good option. They were passive. They weren't maybe as dark as traditional sunglasses, but they were passive. So the thinking was that even if they weren't as effective as other means, the fact that you were actually wearing them passively made them more effective just because, hey, you had them on. Well, turns out the first edition of an FDA-approved contact lens that does the exact same thing will actually turn darker when exposed to UV radiation. And they said that the organization just gave its seal of approval to the first ever contact lenses that use photochromic technology. And they said that a unique additive will automatically darken the lenses when they're exposed to bright light. And the FDA explained in a statement, the lenses will clear up whenever they're back in normal or darker lighting conditions. One would hope so. If they got stuck in, kind of the darker phase, they would be nigh unusable. So, the FDA approved the technology after extensive trials and clinical studies. One study had 24 wearers use the contacts while driving in both daytime and nighttime. And the FDA found that there were no problems with driving performance or issues with vision while wearing these contact lenses, where in total over 1,000 patients were involved in various studies conducted by the FDA. So, coming to market soon because it just got the stamp of approval. I'm not really sure how expensive they will be, but they said in the first half of 2019, so the first half of next year, you can get your own photochromic contact lenses. It's pretty cool. Everyone, so we're going to leave it right there, and I just want to say thank you so much for tuning into Computer America. Thank you for checking us out here and what we do, and also thank you to our guest today, QuirkLogic, for joining us and telling us all about what it is that they do. So again, if you missed any part of today's show, check out the podcast. ComputerAmerica.com has everything you need to know. And in the meantime, be sure to tune in tomorrow, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, as we have Computer America 5 days a week, just for you. So tune in tomorrow as we have, I believe, Derek Shani. He is our graphics expert, and of course, is just an all-around entertaining guy. Folks, until next time, have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.